Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. First up, CNN's Jake Tapper, it appears, is an absolute phony, a COVID phony. According to the Daily Beast, Jake Tapper tested positive for COVID earlier this month and then just stuck around for a couple more hours to tape his show anyways and put countless lives at risk. And CNN staffers are reportedly livid. Two people familiar with the situation tell the media outlet on May 9th, Tapper did not go home just before taping his 4 p.m. show when he tested positive, exposing several employees to COVID. A lot of people there in the studio with him, people interacting with him on the set, behind the scenes. Funny, it's the same guy who said this about COVID-19 and Donald Trump.
So many of us since March have been doing everything we can to preserve the health of not only ourselves and our families, but our communities, our neighbors, you. We also know the president has been undermining these efforts, expressing disdain for health regulations and those who abide by them.
He sucks. He just totally sucks. I mean, what do you even say in a moment like that? I mean, this little beta male weenie was complaining and crying about COVID-19 every chance he got for like a year and a half. And then he gets it and he just says, whatever. Who cares if I give it to 10 people at work? I got it. I'm staying. I'm doing my show. I'm not going home. And CNN, of course, is backing him. He did nothing, just like Chris Cuomo. He didn't do anything wrong until they have to fire him. It's just priceless. What are you going to say? Who's surprised? That's what I would say. Next up, Bill Maher jumping into the trans discussion in a big way. Enjoy.
Less than 1% of Americans born before 1946, that's Joe Biden's generation, identify that way. 2.6% of boomers do, 4.2% of Gen X, 10.5% of millennials, and 20.8% of Gen Z. Which means if we follow this trajectory, we will all be gay in 2054.
So we got, what, 30 years and we're all gay? Oh, well. It's a joke, of course, but it's also not really a joke at all. The numbers really are shocking. I mean, he put together some information in that show that was really, it'll blow you away. And I try to watch that show every week, and you got to go through a lot of liberal nonsense and a whole bunch of Trump bashing. But then you get to these little nuggets, and it gets interesting for a minute. And he's playing both sides, and it's working for his ratings. It also, the story that he's talking about defies all logic and all reason, is the reality of the story, even no matter what political side you're on. You look at those numbers. Does that make any sense? Here's more.
If this spike in trans children is all natural, why is it regional? Either Ohio is shaming them or California is creating them.
It's the hot new thing. It's as simple as that. And you know what? Kids are very, 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 you can convince a kid of anything. They're very impressionable. That's why we protect kids in most cases. Although on this subject, nobody wants to protect kids. Well, nobody on the left wants to protect kids at all. But that's the world we live in now. Next up, an alleged Antifa member who shot 2 people in Aurora, Colorado in the summer of 2020 is let off with a ridiculous sentence. The Denver Post reporting 24-year-old Samuel Young, angry little Antifa, sentenced to just 120 days in jail. 120 days in jail for shooting 2 people, 2 counts of attempted murder. 120 days. Hello. No prison time for a man, just jail. Just 120 days in jail. Convicted of 7 felonies, 2 counts of second-degree assault, 4 counts of attempted manslaughter, and a single count of illegally discharging his gun. People who walked into the Capitol building smiling and taking pictures are doing more time than this guy. I can't imagine why crime is out of control in this country, you know? You'd think that if you completely incentivized crime and told people that there's really no punishment for crime, that crime would just go down. I mean, that's what the liberals always told me. Why is it going up so fast? Next up, in one of the most hilarious stories of the day, the San Francisco Archbishop will deny Nancy Pelosi communion because she's such a huge fan of killing babies right up until the moment they're born. Here is how The View handled this topic today. Please enjoy.
The Archbishop of San Francisco Is calling for Speaker Nancy Pelosi to be denied receiving communion because of her pro-choice stance. He's one of the priests who also called for President Biden to be denied sacrament. This is not your job, dude. That is not up to you to make that decision.
It's the only person that makes that decision. It's literally, it's exactly his job. Whoopi Goldberg. It's amazing. I think the View producers are actually geniuses. I think they say we have 5 idiots, or however many idiots there are, maybe there's 4. And we're just like, just give them little nuggets of information. And let's just see if they'll actually say it. Because every day we're going to make headlines. And we're going to have 1 million viewers a day. Probably a couple million viewers a day. It's brilliant. The producers are evil geniuses. And the little pawns they have on the set are just morons. That's my personal theory.